In episode number 217, we cover Telltale Games' latest title.
We also have pricing on the Nintendo Switch, and does it hit the sweet spot with consumers?
And we're going to wrap it up with our comic book highlight, a book I know we have all been waiting for, Batman TMNT Adventures #1.
All of this and so much more on today's show.
Hello and welcome to the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke, ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and much, much, much more. I'm Kelly.
And I'm Daniel.
For those of you joining us for the very first time, the way this show works is first we start out with some news, ranging from all the topics that I just talked about. I keep trying to get Daniel to let me include some couponing and grocery shopping, some crafting. He won't let me, but I'm still working on it, guys.
Especially with today, because downloads have been amazing. For some reason this week, I think the one podcast episode that we had last week after we took I guess we didn't really take a break because I was sick, but that return, and then we've had a spur of downloads too on iTunes from the Pokemon charts and from the DC Comics charts.
Wonderful.
I posted up an image of the Pokemon charts and all the podcasts, and we're moving up on those. So I also looked up on the DC Comics one, and that's another chart that we're going up on. So huge thanks to all of the listeners for tuning in, for subscribing on iTunes if you do, and also for the reviews on iTunes. Even if you don't normally listen on iTunes, those reviews do help us out. It takes 2 minutes. You just have to have an account on iTunes. If you already have it, already have the program, might as well take the few minutes and review us if you haven't already. That little bit helps, and moving up on the charts does help new brokettes find the podcast.
We just need to talk about Pokemon more then. I want to be on the top of the Pokemon charts.
That's a tough one. The #1 Pokemon chart podcast is It's Super Effective, which has been around for years upon years. They have a panel at C2E2.
You know what? I want to be the best. Like no one ever was. So I gotta be #1 on the Pokemans. Can I be #2 on the Pokemon chart?
I'd settle for #2. Honestly, I would settle for #2.
We'll name it the Pokemon Podcast.
I do also want to point out that I am cough-free.
You are, finally.
All cylinders, completely healthy, nothing wrong. Along with that, though, I know a lot of listeners have pointed out that staticky noise that sometimes comes up during the podcast. I don't think you've heard it, but
I've heard it when you're editing, where it just goes like that.
No. This is one in which randomly it'll start repeating the audio, like it'll just go and Pokemon, and then it'll just go,
and then we go, Pokemon. Sounds like a really cool podcast.
Unfortunately, it does come with static noise on top of that, and
Pokemon. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And listeners have pointed that out, and it's something that's been happening over the last year, and it's something that I can't really edit out. Sometimes I am able to, because it happens during moments where we're not talking, and then I can just cut it out and no problem, but other times it's a part of the audio, and what we're actually saying still comes through, which is the only reason I leave it. Otherwise, you would hear a really severe cut in that. But we have upgraded. We've had the old computer for 7 years now. About 7 years.
Yeah, 7 years.
And the port on it was dying. So we have upgraded. I've been saving for, Jesus Christ, I think 3 years. Because I knew eventually we were going to need one anyway. And it just got to the point where it was really becoming a problem. And I've saved up just enough to I can go, okay, well, let me buy the low-end version of the next, not the new MacBook Pro, but a previous version of it. But it's still newer than the 7-year
the 7-year-old
one. So that's what we're using right now, and hopefully it doesn't give us any problems. If it does, I don't think it's going to be the microphone at that point. I think it's going to still be the program, because there's a lot of background reworkings that I'm doing on this end. The new version of GarageBand is shitty and it doesn't support podcasts, so I've had to use an older one, but it's using the same file as before. All summary. It is going to might take a little bit of adjusting in the next couple of episodes, but with Alphonic, thanks to all of our Patreon backers, it's going to make that transition even smoother as we continue to tweak the audio over the next couple of weeks, next couple of months. And if I decide to go ahead and use GarageBand 10 and do that fucking nonsense to myself and put myself through that struggle, then there'll be even more adjustments. But for now, we should not have that issue. Hopefully, crossing my fingers, we'll find out again in the next couple of weeks.
Right.
And again, thanks to all the listeners for bearing with us.
I upgraded this week too. Not podcast-wise, but I think I talked about last episode my struggle with car purchasing. Pain in the ass. I hate it. I still hate it. But I was driving home the other night, and I got pulled over in my old ratchet car. There's no other way to describe it except for ratchet. So I got pulled over for the second time in 2 weeks. Pulled me over, shined his high beams in the back of my car, shining his flashlight all through there like I was smuggling something, I don't know. Walks up, and he goes, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" Does anybody ever know why they get pulled over? Sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're speeding, you fucking know. You're like, I was fucking speeding.
Well, I was not speeding, I've learned. And he goes, "Well, you have a tail light that's out." And I'm like, "Oh, well, tail light, that's easy. I always kept extra bulbs in my glove compartment because they come in packs of like 2 or 4. So you buy the bigger pack for cheaper because you're always going to need them." So I was like, "Well, that's an easy one. I'll just go home, switch out the tail light. Cool, no problem." So I go home, switch out the tail light, turn it on, still won't work.
Of course.
So I made a decision that night, and I said, "You know what? I'm just going to keep getting pulled over, and eventually it's going to lead to a ticket. So I'm going to go down to the dealership tomorrow. I'm going to test drive a car that they have online and just see what they'll give me for my car. Just see." So I drive down, and I find a car that I like, meets everything that I wanted. And then I go, "Well, what do you give me for that piece of junk out there?" They didn't even look at it. They just wrote down a number. And I said, "Where do I sign?" Because it was 5 times more than any other. Granted, 5 times is not a lot of money. But it was still more than any other place was going to give me. So I signed, and I took that money, and I ran. Got out of I'm like, "I can take this car home today, right? Like, you're going to take mine. Like, here's my key." So I do have, it's a used car.
Of course. You gotta go used.
Yeah, you gotta get a used car. So it's still a 4-year-old car, but it's 10 years newer than my old Ratchet car. So it's great. I'm in love. I think I've driven 100 miles in the last 2 days because I'm just like, let's go here. Oh, we need to go grocery shopping. Let's go to grocery store like an hour away.
Yeah, you've been offering to drive, which is great.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Normally, I'm the one driving.
Well, because one, you always make fun of my car when you get in it.
Not because of what it was, but because of how messy the inside. It has nothing to do with the car itself.
But I've cleaned it. I cleaned it for like the last month. It was clean.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, this is what I'm making fun of. I don't care if you drive a 20-year-old car. I'm never going to make fun of any bumper missing or anything like that. I don't care. But if the inside is messy, I will make fun of you for that.
Listen. But my car was pretty ratchet. It had no bumper. Lights didn't work. All the paneling on the inside was falling down. You even commented the first day, you're like, "It's weird with nothing touching my arm."
No flap, no cloth touching my arm.
Nope. So I will say I was a little sad to see it go. There are a lot of good memories in that car. Mm-hmm. It was my first car that was like all mine. But it was time to move on. It was time, and I'm happy.
I'm glad you found your car.
Yes, me too.
It took you a while.
Me too. My parents are happy. I'm happy.
Within your budget, exactly what you were looking for.
Yep. And now I don't have to worry about that car buying experience for like 7 more years.
Hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
So, all right, Brokettes, let's jump into the news for this week, and it's going to start off with Disney news, as we now have the full trailer, no longer the teaser, but the full official trailer to Disney's Beauty and the Beast.
My Facebook exploded when this thing came out. Exploded!
That's because your friends list is full of Disney fiends.
Listen, just let me live my life, okay?
Papa?
Belle, you must leave here. This castle is alive.
Who's there?
Do you wish to take your father's place?
Come into the light.
It's... You know what? We got to see the Beast in movement, in action.
And he's still very handsome.
Super CG, as we expected.
Yes, and handsome.
Some of it, I'm going to tell you, I'm more worried now than when I saw the teaser, to be honest with you, because the objects and the voice acting and some of the CGI, I don't know. I don't like CGI. I don't like that it looks like it's not realistic. I don't like that it looks like 5-year-old CGI. But I'm there for the story. You know, at the end of the day, I think Gaston looked great. I still see Emma Watson. I don't see Beauty, the character, Belle, when I look at Emma Watson. But the Beast design, as we mentioned before, looks awesome. Looks a little bit awkward in movement. And the objects look weird. Like Chip, when he's talking, can we get another line reading on that shit? I just did not buy it as the guy. Like, be more excited. This is a Disney film.
A lot of people are really upset about Chip, too. There's a petition to get him redone because they said he's not cute enough to be Chip.
I saw that they were saying the same thing about the Beast, too. A lot of people hate the Beast
design.
But
he's so handsome.
Well, here's the thing. No matter what we were getting, and we mentioned this even before we saw what the Beast looked like, people were not going to be happy with the Beast, or even with, in this case, Chip, apparently, because they're so attached to the animated version that it's unless it's actual animated cells up on the big screen, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where they just took the old movie and put it in there with live action Emma Watson, people were not going to be happy with the designs.
Right.
So I think I expected that. That's not a big deal. Chip, though, that one I did not. I didn't know people were going to attach themselves to Chip and say, that's the thing that they're going to...
Chip. People love him.
I didn't know that. I did not know that at all.
Surprise!
What'd you think of the trailer? I know you were a lot happier with it.
I was. I'm still very excited for the movie. I like that they kept the same music that they had in the old one, because I have an emotional attachment, to the music. I don't really like the way the objects look. I don't.
They're too creepy. I don't know. They're complex.
They're too intricate. Yeah, that's what it is. So I don't... I'm not all about it, but I think it's still going to tell a great story if they keep with what the original movie was, and that's what we're there for, again, is the movie.
And that's what it looks like they are going with. I mean, you saw in this trailer, almost from beginning to end, those iconic scenes of the fight between Gaston and the Beast up on the castle. You saw the fight with the Beast and the wolves after the first time he rescues Belle, because that's what it takes for Belle to stick around, for him to fucking save her life and almost die.
Listen, he captured her and forced her to live there.
No. It was an exchange, remember? For her father's
Okay, well, then
life.
he captured her father. He was an asshole either way.
He didn't get... that's one difference from the animated movie, is it looks like he gets captured as soon as he enters the castle grounds,
right,
as opposed to, sitting in the master's chair. But none of that matters to me. I don't need this to be exactly like the animated feature.
I will say the way the trailer makes it seem is that Belle has a much more active role in helping and defending the castle than she did in the animated one, which I think some people will be upset about, but yeah, I'm all for it. Sure, if, as long as we're getting the same story and you can still see that progression, go ahead and let her be more of a strong female character.
Probably trying to give her more action and stuff in that scene, because in that she was just trying to get on top of the castle.
I'm sure Emma Watson, too, was very expensive, so they're like, well, put her in here some more. I will say I was happy that her father has a French accent in this movie, but it doesn't make sense that she has an English accent.
That's true. I didn't even think about that.
Yep.
Maybe she's adopted. Who knows? We don't know the backstory.
Maybe she lived with her mother in England for a while. I don't know.
Beauty and the Beast is set to release March 17th, 2017.
Right
4 months
around the
away.
corner. Ugh, it's already almost the end of November. What's going on, guys? So as we mentioned in the beginning, we do have a price point for the Nintendo Switch. Toys R Us Canada and Retailer Game have listed the Nintendo Switch at $249.99.
So both Canadian markets, both Canadian retailers. This is expected to be the worldwide price, as the Nintendo Switch is actually region-free. Do you know what region-free means?
That means you can play it all the games, all the places.
Exactly. You can import a Japanese Nintendo Switch game and play it on your regular Nintendo Switch. That is good.
Smart.
That is awesome. I don't think that's happened since the early 3DS or maybe the regular DS. And that's how people got to play Shonen Jump Superstars Ultra, which they actually even sold.
That is definitely a Japanese name.
I remember they sold that at Best Buy.
Shonen Jump Superstar Ultra! That's how you gotta say it.
There's a sequel, which I don't know the title to, and I don't want to look that up.
Shonen Jump Superstar Ultra Megastar!
Is that racist?
Superstar Ultra. No, but that's what they do with all their names. It's great. I love it.
While the price is not official, and it doesn't include any expected bundles, because there will be.
Yep.
This does put it at the right spot to attract the more mainstream consumer. Comments out there were saying, you know what? I think I will give the Nintendo Switch a shot. This is the right price point. I mean, this is almost a reflection of what the Wii was, where it was low enough. I remember I worked at GameStop, and they were like, this is an amazing price for the new system, and the general public loved it, and now they're trying to replicate that same success with the Nintendo Switch. They changed the name on it so it doesn't relate to the Wii anymore. They've got the lower pricing on it. And yes, they are going to make their money, again, just like they did with the Wii, on the controllers, on the accessories. With the Nintendo Switch being portable, tons of accessories every time they do a handheld.
yeah.
Screen protectors. Maybe there's going to be a stylus portion to this. I don't know. There's definitely going to be some kind of protective case on it. Maybe an external battery in case you want to get it on the go.
Well,
They're really going to get you on this.
Here's the thing. With all the pieces being separate, too, those little controllers, yeah, you don't want a black one. Okay, we got them in red. We got them in, Special Mario Edition. We have all... Yeah. They're going to make money.
And they will probably discount it in a bundle, let's say $249.99 for just the system alone, or you can get it with this launch game. And we don't know what the launch games are going to be yet because I don't have it on the news notes here. But the fucking Legend of Zelda postponed yet again.
Like
Not
we
surprised.
Knew it would be.
Not fucking surprised. I mean, this is Nintendo's Kingdom of Hearts 3. They're just going to keep pushing it back until 2020 at the earliest.
I don't know what that game you just said is, so I mean, they must be pushing it back.
So we're not going to get Zelda from day one. I think that's definitely going to hurt the Nintendo Switch. Mm-hmm. But we're going to start seeing titles between now and its launch. So maybe there's going to be that Mario game that's going to take it off. Anytime there is a Mario game, that really helps out in sales. Maybe there's going to be a new platformer. We saw something sort of like 3D Land or the latest Mario game in the debut video, so that could be what they put out. Maybe it's just a Wii U rehash, but on the go on the Nintendo Switch. Maybe you get a bundle and you get these 5 Wii U titles already downloaded on the system for an extra $50, $299.99. Either way, there's going to be that bundle out there that most likely is going to be the one that people go for. Because when there's perceived value, even if it's more expensive, people jump on it.
What if it's a Pokemon title that they have under wraps? Pokemon's huge right now. You kidding me? Even if they put Sun and Moon on there, they can do it.
It'd be something really secretive, though, if they did. Now, the only thing is Pokemon is owned by the Pokemon Company and Game Freak, which is not exclusively Nintendo, which is why they were able to put it on mobile devices. What's funny is when Pokemon Go came out, Nintendo stock blew up.
Well,
right?
yeah.
And then the stockholders realized, this isn't Nintendo, this is Game Freak, and immediately dropped 2 weeks later. So I don't think it's going to be a Pokemon launch title, but I definitely could see a Mario title. They definitely need it if they're not going to have Zelda.
Do you think with the way that they have it set up now where it can be portable that they would put the Pokemon games on there?
So being able to play Pokemon Sun and Moon on the Nintendo Switch?
Yeah.
Now, the only question I have is, how's that going to work on the controller? Because it's only one screen, and Sun and Moon requires both.
Listen, that is just... I'm not the brains behind this operation. I'm just asking questions.
You're just the idea person.
I'm just the idea person. You just split it on the screen.
Just the smallest, even smaller screen.
Yeah.
What would work is if you held the screen maybe vertically, because then you have enough room to put it on both. I just don't know how the controller would work in that case.
I am not the idea person, okay? I mean, I'm the idea person, not the technical person. Listen.
$249, good price?
Yeah, I think it's a great price. That's exactly what I think people will spend for this.
And knowing Nintendo, they are not a company to lose money on a system. Mm-hmm. Whereas, in the past we've seen with PS4, PS3, it would cost them more to make the system than to actually sell it.
Right.
So a lot of times they'd rely on the accessories or the games to make their money. Nintendo, they haven't lost money on the manufacturing of these systems. So essentially people are buying a more robust handheld, which we've seen with the DSs. They don't usually go higher than $300 at launch. But with that component, that is basically a fancy HDMI cord to go into your television, but it's like a little station. They know what they're doing. They're not going to lose money on it. So $249.99, probably costing them about $180 to manufacture this bitch.
Or less.
That's just by the way, I rigs that number. It's just a random, I pulled it out of my ass. About $180.
They created the system with leftover DS pieces that they just had in a warehouse. Not even 3DS, just regular DS pieces.
And then they added the processor from the Wii U, and they're like, there we go, done. Put a shell on it.
They just Frankensteined some pieces together and called it the Nintendo Switch.
Staying on the gaming side, Eurogamer has reported that Telltale Games' Marvel title, we knew there was going to be a Marvel title coming up, is officially Guardians of the Galaxy.
I think if you're going to do one for Marvel, that's what it's got to be.
Especially if it's coming out next year.
Mm-hmm. So the official reveal is expected at the Video Game Awards in December, with a launch of April to coincide with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Telltale Games has previously worked on the recent Batman game. We're about halfway done with it. And the Walking Dead title. So more comic book connections there.
That Batman game is awesome. by the way.
It's so fucking good. Yeah, we haven't talked about it.
Yeah.
I do want to cover it when we finish it, just so we can do like an overall impressions video. But if you do like Telltale Games' experiences in previous titles, Batman is no fucking exception. All the episodes are going to be out by the end of this year.
Speaking of Batman, we saw a trailer today for Justice League Dark. We've talked about it before, about how they're going to have Constantine, but it's going to be TV show Constantine. So then there was this whole thing, is Kelli going to like it because it looks like comic book Constantine, but it sounds like TV show Constantine? What's Kelli going to do? I like him, okay? Calm down. He's cool.
Are you talking about magic? Then we have to find John Constantine.
So Justice League Dark is going to be rated R.
Cool.
And will also be available in a special gift set, which includes a Constantine action figure.
Why didn't you tell me about this?
I haven't even seen the action figure. They just told us there's going to be a special bundle with it. Now, more importantly, not even the fact that, you get an action figure. I like that they recognize people like Constantine. We got the actor that is essentially Constantine from the television show. He's going to be voicing himself in Justice League Dark, but we're going to include the action figure of the character that people like from Justice League Dark. That tells me that they know how important that character is to the fans out there. That's what I took away the most. You know
which action figure they need to include? The TV show Constantine from all the ones they didn't sell.
There's actually a TV show Constantine coming out, like an action figure. Hasn't come out yet, but it is coming out.
Why don't I have this?
They just announced it.
Pre-order that bitch.
Pre-order.
I need it. What am I going to do with it? Why are you pre-ordering this?
We can put it next to our Constantine Blu-ray on display. We'll fucking retail that bitch. Like, you know how I set up my comics, the trade paperbacks, almost like I'm selling them at my house.
People walk in and here are these comics. You got little prices out on them. I'm like, damn, what are you doing?
We can do that, little Constantine action figurine.
Okay, well, I'm not selling it, so... But yes, I do want my action figure.
Along with the trailer, we did get an official release date on Blu-ray, February 7th, 2017. There's like a digital version also that I'm not even going to mention. I'm sure it's got some date out there.
Weird.
But you don't want to pirate it, buy digital. When you want to buy physical Blu-ray, have it in your hand, put it up on your fucking shelf.
In alphabetical order.
February 7th.
I will say what I took away most from this trailer was that Batman's just got to put himself in everything.
That is, yes. They marketed this smart.
So well.
Whoever the fuck is in charge, we know it's going to be different than the trade paperback. If you flip through the trade, you don't see much Batman in there. You don't see the Justice League helping them out also, fighting demons. Instead, they rewrote this just like they did the previous movies. Flashpoint, Justice League, the Atlantis one, which I didn't really enjoy as much.
The Atlantis one.
And they said, you know what? We need to put more fucking Batman in this, because when that trailer drops, we need people to say, oh, I want to see this because Batman is going to be teaming up with Constantine. They're not as familiar with Zatanna or Swamp Thing, and I'm talking about, the general public or people that are just watching the superhero movies on the big screen and not reading the comics. So to them, that's why you put Batman in there. That's why you put Constantine. Two properties that they're definitely familiar with, if anything, from television because of Constantine. And you market that shit. Batman's teaming up with them. He's going to be in the story. You write him in there. He's fighting alongside them.
Yeah. And that's exactly what they did in the trailer.
How's Batman fighting magic?
Listen, it's great. So it opens up with this guy getting his brain sucked out and people seeing nightmares and they're talking about it in the Justice League Tower or whatever. And Batman's like, magic. We need to go find John Constantine. And then, next is him in the Batmobile with with Zatanna and Deadman. And then they find Constantine, and then he's out there fighting bad guys with them. Not the rest of the Justice League. Just Batman and Justice League Dark.
From what I gathered, Batman's going to be in the Justice League Dark most of the time. And you do see the Justice League fighting off hordes of demons probably. So they're just probably going to be in the background for the action scenes. So let's see Cyborg blast off demons, Wonder Woman cut off heads, and Batman and the Justice League Dark taking care of the real business. Shutting down the portal, knocking out whoever the fuck needs to be knocked out with a Batman elbow to the goddamn face. That's where the important shit is.
I was just reminded of the Mulan song. I don't know why.
Can you put the lyrics in there?
Yeah. Let's get down to business to defeat demons. Yeah. I couldn't crack myself up.
So the biggest upset right now with the election, aside from you losing, that's the number one upset right now.
That better be the number one upset.
But the second one, and again, we try not to get too political, but this actually ties in with reactions from the industry and how they're no longer going to go to certain places due to President-elect Donald Trump.
So Marvel's Champions artist Umberto Ramos has stated on Facebook that he will no longer appear at conventions in states where the Electoral College votes went to the President-elect Donald Trump.
So before I give my opinion on this, Ramos, a little background, he is a native and resident of Mexico. He no longer feels welcomed among Trump supporters.
We do have a quote here. It says, "I know when I'm not welcomed, and I won't expose myself to being offended or mistreated. There is no need," said Ramos. "So I want to communicate that for at least the next 4 years, I have decided not to attend any conventions that take place in red states, those states who voted for Mr. Trump, those states where I am clearly not welcomed."
End quote. So these 29 states are Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, Florida right here, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana.
It would be easier to name the states that aren't red.
Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming.
Again, easier to name the places.
Okay, so I've got an opinion on this, and I actually do not agree with Umberto. 29 states that you're not going to be at, and I understand that he's big enough to do that. He's previously worked on Superior Spider-Man. He's not short of work. He's not short of commissions. You follow him on Facebook or on Twitter, you see he's always drawing shit that he's been paid to draw by fans. So to him, he can go to those few states and bank off of those conventions. That's fine. I personally don't think they can do whatever they want. You know, it's their work or their livelihood, but I don't think the right route to protest is to not go to the states that voted for Trump, because you are going to have fans there that did not vote for the president-elect who still want to see your work. And unfortunately, you are keeping yourselves from those fans, and you're denying them the ability to meet you or to get stuff signed by you simply because they don't want to be in the state overall that voted in the way that you did not want them to.
I agree. Something that I've taken away from everything that's happened in the last few weeks, and I think is a pretty powerful message, is the right action isn't to, I won't say to protest, but to kind of ignore all of that, or to say, well, I'm not going to be a part of that now. The right action is more to step above it. So you don't agree with it? Okay, what are you going to do to change it? Saying, oh, I'm just not going to participate doesn't change anything.
It's like Obama said in his speech after the reaction of the election. He said, this isn't the time to grow cynical and deny yourselves of anything or be negative. Instead, it's don't just vote during the fucking elections every 4 years. Vote every 2 years. Vote for your local governments, your local candidates as well, instead of just coming out every 4 years. And that's the right attitude, is just get more involved. If you don't like the way something went, then you get involved for the next 4 years. And if that went the way you wanted, then you stay involved in those next 4 years so that it continues that way. Just like many people did in this election that voted for Trump. They wanted it to go a certain way. They came out and they voted. That's exactly the way you have to be. You have to be proactive. You have to involve yourself in all of this. And instead shutting yourself out, I get the idea. I'm not welcomed in those states because I'm Mexican. So clearly they don't want me here. The average citizen there is not going, oh, I know who you are, Umberto. I know you come from Mexico. I don't want you here. It's going to be at conventions. No one at the conventions, maybe one idiot out there is going to say, you don't belong here. Get out of this convention. But aside from that, you don't see that among convention crowds.
Right.
They're not that kind of...
Here's what I feel, too. If that one person does come up and say, we don't want you here, all the rest of the convention people are going to, fuck him up.
That's true, too. Yeah, they're going to... Your local artists and your own writers and your own companies are going to come out and defend you. And if anything, that's going to bring more attention towards, you not wanting that kind of reaction from consumers or from U.S. citizens. So, yes, continue coming out to these places. And if, like you said, if that happens, it's going to bring attention to the issue.
Same boat as you. I see what he's trying to do. I see what he's feeling. But personally, I don't think it's the right move. If for him, he feels personally that's what I need to do, okay, if that makes you feel better. But in this situation, it's really something where you need to rise above rather than be weighed down by everything.
He's not the only one, Kelly.
Oy!
We also have New Teen Titans and Deathstroke co-creator George Perez. He has made the same commitment after deleting his Facebook account and fan-made webpage.
Wow. So George Perez is a longtime Florida resident and has often attended local shops and conventions.
He's always at MegaCon every single fucking year.
Nicest guy. Yeah.
Very kind. Anytime he does commissions, he does it for the Hero Initiative. I guess it's a charity organization. Yeah, I think it is considered a charity organization where they pull together this money for writers, artists, people of the comic industry that can no longer support themselves, whether it's from a disease or because they're no longer getting work, whatever it is. It's this fund that helps out those comic creators that have brought these characters to life for a lot of people that just aren't getting the financial support that they used to anymore. They're not getting any work, or maybe they have health bills that aren't helping. And anytime he does any work, all of that money that you give him for the sketches, he will put into that Hero Initiative. And anytime he signs something, he says, hey, consider donating for the Hero Initiative, which we did when we met him 3 years ago, I want to say.
Yeah.
He always has that jar. He always has that group of Hero Initiative. He has a huge display, especially being in Florida. He has tons of fans here in Florida because this is where he's from. He goes to local comic shops that you can go to in a 30-minute drive from Orlando here. So he's definitely a huge resident of the state. But now that he's also making the same pledge, I don't know if he's going to move out of the state. I don't know if he's going to no longer go to MegaCon. He's definitely not going to MegaCon anymore. Now, the reason Perez is protesting is because although he was born in New York City, he is of Puerto Rican descent. The same stance. Same stance.
Same stance. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not going to say anything. Yeah, I get it.
Before we move on to the next writer that is taking a stance towards this because of the election, Palmiotti said that he loves Florida. He's going to stay in Florida. He's going to keep doing conventions, and he's simply going to keep getting involved in politics. That's all. Like, he's good. He said, I still love Florida for what it is. I love the people here. Although they didn't vote how I wanted, I still love my state. And that's more in line with, I think, what we would do if we were in their position.
Of course. Next artist that we're going to talk about, though, next writer, is Marvel's Kingpin comic writer, who has taken a different approach when visiting throughout the country.
Matthew Rosenberg has stated on Twitter that he will only visit conventions that donate to local charities and progressive causes.
There you go. So we have a quote from him. I did 16 Comic Cons this year. I spent almost 20 weeks on the road. I'm fucking tired, and I'm happy to do it all again next year, but it has to be about something bigger than trying to sell myself. And obviously, I have no interest in doing any shows that aren't inclusive, safe spaces with strong anti-harassment policies.
End quote. I don't think he's going to have a hard time finding these conventions. A huge trend with cons is that they're putting up these signs that say, cosplay is not consent. If you have been harassed, dial this number. They have all kinds of hotlines that are local to the convention where you can immediately call out someone that has been harassing you. They generally do have police nearby. They have tons of security. It's a huge thing because a more diverse crowd is starting to attend all these different conventions thanks to superheroes being bigger than ever before. You're seeing a lot more women attending these conventions, a lot more from the LGBTQ community. All of these crowds are growing in difference, and that's why you're getting these better policies at cons. So I think Rosenberg won't be limiting himself too much by taking this particular stance.
No, I definitely agree. And again, I mean, going back to the election, I think that it has brought a lot of attention to harassment, and a lot more people are against it and for the cause of making people feel safe. So I definitely think that we'll start to see more conventions that promote that showing up.
And even with comic artists and comic creators, Ethan Van Sciver, love his work, did awesome on Green Lantern. He was a Trump supporter. He is a Trump supporter. He's celebrated when he won. But maybe some people are not buying his work anymore because of it. We still are because we enjoy the work. We enjoy the comic. We enjoy his artwork. because of someone's political stance, we're not going to stop buying their work or stop supporting them, because at the end of the day, they're not drawing, now I'm going to put Trump in the Green Lantern comic books and he's going to be the hero. We're not saying... I actually do want to see that comic.
Would
gonna
he
build a green wall. It's going to be fantastic. You're going to love it.
Would he be an orange lantern? I mean, he's kind of
Everest.
Kind of
maybe.
Orange already.
Or a combination, green and orange.
Green and orange.
Might be stronger. I don't know. Yes. Give me that comic, Ethan.
Make it. We will buy it.
But the whole point is he's separating his political, personal beliefs or stances with his work. And that's kind of the whole idea. Unless you commit a crime and then you want to stop supporting the artist, like we had on Rat Queens. He got in trouble for beating his girlfriend or wife. He went to jail for it. He ended up leaving the book because this was such a progressive comic. Mm-hmm. And then you have the artist doing very unprogressive things.
Right.
They have to be cut from the project, if anything, for the sake of the comic moving forward. But in this case, you're not going to see, hopefully ever, a comic company say, well, we don't like that they supported this candidate, so we're not going to give them any more work. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of backlash you don't want to see.
So moving on to some Marvel news, having to do with both the big screen and the small screen. After canceling out of the film from Marvel's Phase 3, The Inhumans will debut September 2017 as a TV show on ABC.
So get this. This will kick off with an exclusive IMAX two-parter that will show for 2 weeks before the show's television launch.
Huh. Interesting.
Before we get to the quote, is that a viable thing? Are the Inhumans big enough to put out on IMAX? Or is it that Marvel's big enough to put out on IMAX?
Well, I only have one thing to say about that, and that's, who are the Inhumans?
Exactly.
Is Marvel big enough? Yes. Will the name pull in people just because of the name? Yes. But I don't know who they are. Let me use this handy-dandy Google thing.
As you look them up, here's the quote. This unprecedented alliance represents a bold, innovative approach to launching great television content for a worldwide audience, said Ben Sherwood, president of Disney ABC Television Group. It highlights Disney and ABC's unrelenting commitment to finding new and creative ways to showcase our very best programming and increasing global engagement and reach, end quote.
Listen, I still don't know who these guys are.
You should give them give them names based on what they look like.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm gonna give you the names, but you gotta describe who it is.
All right. Let me find a picture of them. Let me find a good picture of them. How many are there?
I have no idea. I'm not the Marvel guy.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Here's Tattoo Face Man. He's bald. He's got some tattoos on his face.
Tattoo Face Man.
Yeah,
Okay.
Tattoo Face Man. Here's Discount Dr. Manhattan.
In the middle? Okay, so that's Black Bolt?
I mean...
Discount Dr. Manhattan?
No, he's kind of like a mix between the Tick and Dr. Manhattan.
So describe what he looks like. He's got the fork on his head,
Is that a fork on his head? Oh, I thought it was like Dr. Manhattan's thingy.
It's Dr. Manhattan's thingy.
Okay, Dr. Manhattan's thingy. Why has he got a fork on his head? I'm very confused.
It's definitely a fork.
Okay. I'm just kind of confused. Okay, there's Red-Headed Ho Lady.
Red-Headed Ho Lady.
Okay.
Medusa.
Is that her name, really?
Yes.
Oh, she's Red-Headed Ho Lady. She's just wearing skimpy clothes and doing stuff. You have Lady Flash, because she's wearing yellow.
Okay. Lady Flash.
Yeah, but she looks kind of grumpy, so she's Grumpy Lady Flash.
She Flash?
Yeah, she Flash. This is Aquaman, clearly.
At the very end? What's he look like?
No, not at the very end. The white guy.
What's he look like?
Describe
him.
I don't know. He's got kind of blondish hair. He's got fish scales on his forehead or something. I could be way off.
And the last one.
Look, you scroll down a little bit and it's even got Aquaman right there on Google to related searches. That's clearly Aquaman.
Final one at the end.
Whatever, the final one.
Green.
No, he's the thing from Johnny Quest, the swamp monster. Or he was in Scooby-Doo or something. Let's just call him Swamp Scooby-Doo Monster. Or Toad Boy or something. What's his name, really?
I don't know. I've named the two that I fucking know, only from offhand conversations that I've had at the comic book shop.
Okay, see, look, here's a better picture of him. Still looks like Aquaman. Why isn't he wearing a shirt?
Inhumans have appeared in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but this standalone show will focus on Black Bolt and the royal family.
Nope. She's Charlie Brown. I changed my mind. It's not Lady Flash. She's wearing Charlie Brown clothes. Her name is Charlie Brown. Who's this woolly man?
Charlene Brown.
Who's this woolly man? You see him?
I don't know.
He looks like, I don't know, remember that woolly man in like a cartoon once? See, look, here's a redheaded hoe. She'd be in a hoe.
That's Medusa.
She'd be in a hoe. There's still Charlie Brown. I'm very confused. These guys keep changing.
So the IMAX release, 2 weeks. I think it's going to do well. I think people want to see Marvel's Inhumans. You put fucking Marvels right in front of Inhumans. That will bring people in to IMAX theaters to watching the 2-part premiere before they get to see it on television. I think it's a pretty smart move. I think it could have been done better with maybe a bigger television show. But as hot as Marvel is right now, I don't think they're going to have problems bringing in people paying that premium price just to see essentially an hour-long television special.
Right. No, people definitely will do it. Again, with the Marvel name, you're going to have the people who love Inhumans, the like 2 people who love it, who are going to show up.
There's going to be way more.
I know. It's not a bad thing, and I wouldn't be surprised if DC does something like that. Like, we still got the Flash going on. Okay, so do a Flash Supergirl crossover for the beginning of next season for both and show it in IMAX first.
The idea behind the Inhumans, and just to give you what I know, is since Marvel did not own the X-Men or any mutants, the way that they would have super-powered humans that could have mutant-like powers would be to call them Inhumans, or there's like another term they used on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. too, but Inhumans was basically going to be their fill-in role for super-powered humans or X-Men or mutants. That was going to be the property that they already owned that they could then build off of. And it originally was going to be a film, because that was part of Phase 3 and an original slate. But instead it is going to be straight to television. I'm not sure why. Maybe some deal got made. I honestly couldn't tell you. But instead, some people that are fans of the Inhumans, because they're out there, of course. There's a comic book. They're worried that having it on television is not going to give them the budget they deserve for all of the different powers. Instead, they think it's going to look too cheap on the little screen for the characters that they really like. This isn't Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. These aren't just people in suits that they can use a third-rate villain for. These are the Inhumans, a potential property that could have been up there with another, at the time, relatively unknown team, the Guardians of the Galaxy.
My argument to that is, like, look at the Flash. Look at Supergirl. Now, granted, okay, Supergirl costs a lot of money to make, but it still looks great. They can do it. And again, this is Marvel, this is Disney. They're going to have the money if they choose to put it into it.
Wrapping up our block of news with comics this time, we have some lies from Frank Cho.
Some lies!
After leaving Wonder Woman early, due to writer Greg Pak's criticisms, you remember that cover that they ended up cropping?
Yep.
Artist Frank Cho claims to be in negotiations with DC Comics to return to the title as writer and artist once Pak's contract ends.
So we have a quote here. I can't tell you that, but it's not going to be an origin story because I hate origin stories. Every single Wonder Woman book that you pick up, there's a goddamn origin story where nothing happens. I'm going to treat Wonder Woman as I treat all superheroes. As a superhero. This was said by Cho. It's pretty much genderless. She will be fighting bad guys. It's going to be action, non-stop action from start to finish. End quote.
When I first read this, I was worried as fuck. I love Frank Cho's artwork. I do not love his writing.
Nope.
We ended up we're not going to finish Skyborn. After reading that second issue, we're like, okay, this is enough. We've had enough. The art, it's a pretty book, but not pretty enough to pick up 4 more issues of this and bear the writing on it. He's not a great writer. I'm sorry. If you're a Frank Cho writer fan, I apologize.
He writes like a 15-year-old boy.
I do not enjoy his writing. And I do not want to see that writing on Wonder Woman, one of the Trinity. She deserves what she's getting now with Greg Pak. That book is amazing. I love Wonder Woman. It's my second favorite DC Rebirth title out there. Right behind the main Superman, just titled Superman. It's a strong fucking book. And we need to keep Greg Pak on there in spite of, whatever criticisms he had for Frank Cho. Instead, DC Comics did come out with their own statement.
DC Comics has told Newsarama that there are, quote, no current plans for Wonder Woman / Frank Cho project, end quote.
What the fuck was he talking about then?
I don't know.
He might have been trying to get traction on it. Like,
Probably.
fans would be like, yeah, I want to see a Frank Cho Wonder Woman book.
And all of us are like,
not actual readers, it's just going to be action, just like Skyborn. Action upon action, and Wonder Woman's going to break down this door, and she's going to beat up those guys and call them sacks of sperm and Mitches.
Hashtag Frank no.
Pretty good.
I know, I'm a genius. That's why I was almost the POTUS, but you know.
On the Marvel side, they have officially solicited the latest Star Wars miniseries. Darth Maul is going to be a 5-issue miniseries set for February 2017.
The writer is going to be Cullen Bunn, who's done Sinestro, and art is going to be by Luke Ross, who's done Dark Tower, the Gunslinger. I don't even know what that is, but good for him.
It's a Stephen King graphic novel. Huge. It's about to come out as a television show as well.
Really?
This comic, Darth Maul, will take place before Star Wars Episode 1 as Maul becomes swayed by the dark side. Honestly, Kelly, I thought the Darth Maul book was going to come way sooner than it did now.
Mm-hmm. People love Darth Maul.
For some reason. Well, it's because he looks cool and he has a double lightsaber. That's the main reason. He says almost nothing in the movie. Mm-hmm. Blinks, I think, once when he gets cut in half is the only time he blinks. People are like, those are the facts to Darth Maul. Is they're like, he only blinks once, and it's when he gets killed. He has a double lightsaber.
Does he have a cool Wikipedia or something?
At this point, he has a backstory because of Dark Horse. The huge one that people always ask for is the son of Dathomir or Darmir. I don't read Star Wars. I don't read the extended universe. But that's the one novel that people always ask for that is not being printed right now that may now get printed under the Disney Marvel side because they now own Star Wars. Mm-hmm. And again, I did expect the Darth Maul title to come way sooner when they were doing all the different Star Wars titles. I expected Darth Maul before they did Lando. So instead, it looks like they're keeping the more popular characters and kind of spreading them out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's smart. Keep people interested.
It ended up being the smarter move because Darth Vader ended up getting extended into a 25-issue series. It was supposed to be a mini at first, and I heard from many people that it was actually a better title than the main Star Wars book from Marvel. And I have the trade paperback right now. I'm going to check it out. I'm going to read Volume 1. Even though I'm not huge on Star Wars, if people tell me the book is good, I'll fucking enjoy it for what it is. And instead, they said, you know what, we extended Darth Vader, huge character, we ended the story. The writer said, I don't have any more story than this, I don't want to continue it, and Marvel smartly said, okay, then we're just going to end the book, we're not going to put another writer on there and just fluff it up just to continue sales. So instead, they moved on to the next character, it looks to be Darth Maul, and maybe from there it extends to more than a 5-issue miniseries. And once they finish this big character, then you'll probably start seeing Boba Fett as the next one.
Bulbasaur will show up.
Hopefully fucking Bulbasaur. So, yeah, they're taking their time with the property. They own it. There's no fucking clock on this. They have it.
This is just extra money for them. This is just extra money. They already got those movies. You got that Rogue One or whatever coming out, which is going to have Darth Vader in it. Mm-hmm. And that'll just sell the Darth Vader book more. Y'all know what you're doing.
Seems like Cullen Bunn's always writing villain books.
Yeah, he's good at it. Villains that you want to care for.
On to the future of the industry, Kelly.
The future.
Overall, comic book retailers have considered 2016 a success largely due to DC Rebirth's relaunch. These are the thoughts at the end of the year of comic retailers saying, you know what, this is how the industry is looking. They're taking the pulse of sales and of what the future could be for comics at large.
Retailers also cited Boom Studios and Image Comics as strong contributors to the positive year, citing larger creator projects and growing diverse audiences.
The difference between Image Comics, Boom Studios, those two together, and the big two, Marvel and DC Comics, is that with familiar properties, huge properties like Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, you cannot give, and we learned it from DCU and we're learning it right now from Marvel now, is that you cannot give writers too much reign on the creative side. When they start doing something too new, too unfamiliar to the base that is supporting you throughout the years, in an attempt to try to bring in the younger readers, you end up killing sales.
Right.
Unfortunately. And I've always repeated it, I thought DCU was going to be a huge success for DC. I was completely wrong, and I now understand that it's not as the audience, the younger audience buying comics is not as large or as dedicated to these comics as the ones that have been reading for 20 plus years. That's who you want to cater to. And along the way, you can do something different with maybe the smaller characters. But with Image and Boom, they don't have those 50, 75-year-old characters that have a base, that have a recognition. They can do new things. They can say, hey, do you have a story that you want to tell? Come over to Image Comics. We can sell it because we have strong stories as the base of our issues. Yeah, we have The Walking Dead. Yes, we have Saga. But those are relatively new properties, even Walking Dead, comparing them to someone like Superman.
Right. Well, even Saga, it's what, 30-something issues in now? Mm-hmm. That's still pretty new. It's been around for 3 years.
I think about 5 years, but that's because of the breaks.
The break.
Yeah.
3 years. Okay, 3 years.
Many are worrying, though, that Marvel's constant start-stop to their series are hurting the industry as a whole.
Well, yeah, how many people drop off when they're like, oh, delayed. All right, I'm done.
We have a quote here from Joe Field from Flying Colors Comics in Concord, California.
That's a lot of C's.
Who says, with Marvel, every, quote, new season of relaunches may be a small step up from the last issue of the previous season, but also a couple of steps down from the previous series relaunch. Marvel used to be very dependable for delivering new series that would be instant hits, end quote.
Yep, I agree. I don't know. I don't read Marvel.
What they're doing right now is it's kind of an interesting business model if we hadn't seen where it was going now and how it's not helping sales. But here's an idea, Kelly. I'm a writer. I have the story I want to tell for Moon Knight or Daredevil, whoever you want to pick. And this is going to be a 12-issue story, and then I'm finished. I just want to tell this one story. And you're Marvel, and you're saying, okay, let's take that model. Let's do 12-issue stories for the rest of our line as well. Do you have an arc that you want to tell for 12 issues or 5 issues, whatever, a couple of arcs, and then they all end at the same time? And then we'll do a new number one, or we'll end the series and do a new character instead. Like you said, they call them seasons. So instead you just get blocks of 24 issues or 12 issues or something that's quicker to consume. Their thinking is that people want to consume quicker because of with the era we live in now. With Netflix, with Hulu, you have instant access, with internet, computers, everything. They think consumers are the same with their comics. And that's something that DC has been doing with their 2-a-month readers, and they have the same idea, except they're continuing the numbering.
Right.
But in Marvel's case, they're saying, okay, we finished that, now let's do Kingpin number 1, and we'll do that for 10 issues. Now let's do Gwenpool, and the stuff that's doing really good, like Amazing Spider-Man, we're just going to continue the numbering on that. But I think readers are not liking it. They're not enjoying that there's blocks of issues and new series that they have to subscribe to, and that there isn't a focus on the line as a whole.
No, yeah, I definitely, I feel like, I don't know, that would be so frustrating for me. Like, especially if you're subscribed and you're not paying attention. Okay, that arc ended, and then it's 3 months later, and you're saying, oh, well, why are you 3 issues into this character that I still enjoy reading? Oh, well, that started a new one. That was the number 1 again. We didn't know. It's frustrating.
And the idea of hurting the industry as a whole is because, yeah, it hurts Marvel first, because I'm seeing a lot of readers are going, Marvel's just not doing it for me. A year ago, I was huge on the Marvel books, but I don't know what they're doing. They've got delays on Civil War. Their books just aren't on time. They're not consistent as far as the stories coming out. There's new series coming in all the time. I'm finding myself buying more indie books, and that's the trend that it seems to be going in right now. DC and indie. DC is still retaining those readers that they picked up from Rebirth, but a lot of readers are, instead of picking up Marvel books, more often than not, they're picking up indie books.
Well, yeah, indie's way better. And granted, we're not, and we've said it many times, we're more DC fans than Marvel, of course, but there's some Marvel books that I really like. Spider-Man with Miles Morales is a great book.
Silver Surfer is amazing.
Silver Surfer is great. But I could definitely see where people would be frustrated if DC was doing the same thing. We'd be very frustrated as well.
And they were doing that same thing with DCU. Readers are also more often waiting for the trade paperback on books like Saga and The Walking Dead. This does not affect those 2 books much in particular, but smaller titles could risk cancellation if this becomes yet another trend.
So what they need to do is buy the single issue and the trade paperback.
What I see some readers do is they pick up the first 2 trades. They did what we did. And then they go, fuck, I really like this series. Let me pick up the issues now. That's the whole idea. That's why Image does the pauses, so that you can then move over to the single issues. But many casual readers that I only see maybe once every 2 months, they come in and they say, "Hey, when's the next saga? When's the next trade paperback?" And they just keep waiting for the trades. And as I mentioned earlier, Walking Dead Saga, not a big deal. But if you're an indie title and you come out with your book and people say, "Oh, well, I'll just wait for the trade," that's going to get that title canceled because they can't wait for the trade. They can't wait for sales from that.
That's kind of frustrating. I know I did have a friend who was reading Saga, and yes, she would only wait for the trades, but for her it was a money issue. She really enjoyed the book, she really wanted to support the book, but she couldn't afford to purchase them monthly. So then it was, more economic for her to wait for the trade. She could just order it online, so she didn't have to use the gas to get out to the closest store, which was, an hour away. So I understand it from that point of view. But yeah, if you really like something and you want it to continue, especially with those indies, you got to support it monthly. You got to talk to your friends about it and get them to pick it up as well.
Retailers also have to be more careful now when ordering issues due to DC's book returnability coming to an end. Not as much of a big deal as you would think right now, because at this point, retailers should have their ceiling. They should have an idea, okay, well, Blue Beetle sells roughly 25 copies a month, so we can order this much. DC's returnability was for that, so that they can give retailers a chance and not risk being stuck with 100 copies of fucking, Cyborg or New Superman or something. Instead, it's order as much as you want, find your ceiling, return whatever you don't sell. 7 issues later, you should have an idea on your consumers, on your subscribers. You're good to go.
And that was a great thing for DC to do. I think that really had retailers put a lot of faith in them.
Exactly.
So while Q4 expected numbers are lower when compared to last year, Thanksgiving and the holiday season are expected to fuel the rest of 2016, with the hopes of bringing in a large number of newer readers to kick off 2017.
Overall, 2016 has been stronger than 2015, but as they mentioned, the holiday season, not even in comic book shops, but you'll even see that at Target, at Sears, everywhere else. Sears, as if they...
Does Sears still exist?
That's how old I am.
Does Sears still exist?
Oh yeah, they're still around. But they lost the Sears Tower in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
They've closed down a ton of stores. And I like Sears. I used to like Sears. And, it's just everything comes and goes. But overall, the holiday season just isn't as strong as last year's holiday season. But the comic book industry is overall stronger this year than last year. The recent election and Marvel's line of Marvel Now are the expected stiflers to comic book growth right now.
Marvel is expected, though, to shake things up in 2017 to freshen up their line and bring their books into focus, similar to how DC Comics did this year.
At the Retailer Summit, Dan DiDio said it. He's like, count the days until Marvel does their own Rebirth. Count the days. Yeah. Well, there we go.
Okay.
Well, I hope they fucking do it.
All right, I'll count them.
Marvel is, like I mentioned earlier, focusing too much on a younger audience, and the comparison there, again, is DCU, YOU. It looks like they have a female analog to almost every character that doesn't have one already, and while that's great for the people our age that are on Twitter talking about it on Tumblr, it's not translating into comic book sales.
Now, let me ask you this. So, do you think DC pulled in a lot of newer readers, or a decent amount of newer readers with DCU?
No.
Really?
It was, unfortunately, and I remember I saw the sales numbers, and I'm like, fuck, man. Because the idea was bring in the newer readers, and holy shit, this didn't work. DC Rebirth. But there weren't people coming in saying, I saw online that there's the Bizarro book or the Batmite book or the new Midnighter, which is a gay character. We didn't have that. It didn't appear. People just said, "Oh, good for them. I'm glad they're doing that." But they didn't come out and support it with their cash, and that was the issue.
Right. Has anybody younger come in because of the new Marvel stuff?
Not yet. There hasn't been that person that says, "I don't normally read comics," but the last time that happened was Ms. Marvel. Ms. Marvel was huge. It brought in a lot of female readers, Muslim readers, younger readers, and that book's still going on. And yeah, it's gotten a relaunch since Ms. Marvel's debut, and it came with lots of controversy, which is great because it got people talking about the book. But that was the last time that huge or that kind of crowd came out and supported a book was with Ms. Marvel.
Because I was going to say, on paper, I mean, it would make sense, again, on paper, redo it, get younger readers in. Yeah, you're gonna have the older readers who are disgruntled, but as soon as you get those younger readers, go back to what the older readers like, and you still got the younger readers. But that didn't work, so, sorry.
Didn't work for DC. It's not working for Marvel right now. I mean, you have to do what DC Rebirth did, is just focus on the core of the characters, and what actually brings in new readers are the stories, are the adapted movies, are the adapted television shows. That's what gets people in. That's what got a lot of people in. Hey, I saw that the Killing Joke animated movie was coming out. I want to read Joker books. And then I'd show them Joker books. Not even just the Killing Joke. They want to read all the Joker books. Or with the Court of Owls, when that came out in Gotham, people said, I saw them in Gotham. What's going on with the Court of Owls right now? Well, let me show you. They're in Nightwing. So all of this, that's what actually gets the new readers.
Let me show you a better book. Here's this trade.
Here are the true Court of Owls. I mean, that's really what's going to bring them in. That's going to bring in new readers. And yeah, you do have to have your diverse cast of characters. But as we said, doing it too much or doing it so that it's your sole focus is not going to help you with sales. It's unfortunate, but it's right now the reality of the comic industry. The expendable income just isn't really there for the younger readers as it is with the, 30, 40, 50-year-olds.
Right. Too true. Because there's no jobs. And shit's too expensive.
So let us know, Brokettes, what you think of Marvel's current state of affairs, what they're doing, what they're doing that you do like. Maybe you are enjoying some of the newer books, or what you think they could do to fix the line. If you used to read Marvel Comics, let us know, hey, this is what I would like them to do. Maybe stop the delays so much, maybe change up the readership, maybe have less comics, because right now they're just flooding the fucking walls and saying, let's see what sticks, just put everything out there. Kingpin has a new book coming out.
Just throw it all out there.
Let us know on Twitter @ReasonsI'mBroke, Facebook.com/TheReasonsI'mBroke, and we'll include some of those thoughts on next week's episode.
Before we get into our comic book highlight of the week, though, we do want to throw out our Patreon shout-out.
We've got 2 of them this week. Follow them on Twitter. First one is Neil @NMattZ68 and John @John72Tex.
Thank you guys so much for your support. If you guys are listening and you say, you know what, I want to be a Patreon supporter as well, for as little as $1 a month, which is 25 cents an episode, you too can help us reach our next goal, which just makes this podcast even better. I know my personality is enough. I know, but you can help bring this podcast to higher heights as well.
Neil's a runner. I see on Instagram
He's a runner?
Yeah, he puts up I ran 13 million miles today, and he puts up the little runner's map or whatever, where you see them running.
That's so cool. You know when the last time I ran was? A month ago?
It was less than a month ago.
Do you know when my 39-mile race is?
In a month or two?
In a month and a half. 2 months. Month and a half. And I just have not run. So, you know what, Neil? Encourage me to run. Make me wake up. Here's my thing. I hate running in the morning. I'm not a morning person. When I run at night, I run so much better. I can run an 8-minute mile. Not really. It's really fast. But I can run for a long time. If I have to get up in the morning, I feel disgusting. My stomach hurts. I just feel gross. And I just want to go back to bed. But you know what? I work in the evening. And running at night is not safe for a woman. So there's my dilemma.
And also, John works at a comic book shop, too.
Cool.
Very cool. So we often share we send each other pictures here's our display. This is what we got in this week. Oh, yeah, ours sold here. So I'm oh, this is kind of cool.
That's awesome.
So huge thanks again, John and Neil, for your support on Patreon. As you mentioned, patreon.com/TheReasonsI'mBroke. For as little as $1 a month, you two can get your shout out. There's different tiers. There's a $5 tier. We can get a decal every 3 months based on the votes from the Brokettes on Patreon. You also get the podcast early through an exclusive RSS feed for your favorite podcatcher. Sometimes it's less than a day early. Sometimes it's several days early. It depends on how quickly we can edit, when we can record. Either way, you get first access to the podcast before anyone else. We also want to thank fandomfi.com for the help at the decal tier. Make sure to check them out, fandomfy.com.
But of course, guys, our podcast will always be free. The best thing you can do for us is comment on Twitter. Let us know what you think. Leave us a comment or a review on iTunes or anywhere you listen to us. And of course, let people know that we're awesome and amazing and your favorite podcast, because we know all of that is true.
So now we have our comic book highlights this week. We've got 2 of them.
2 highlights.
The first one you mentioned in the opening, it is Batman TMNT Adventures #1.
This is written by Matthew K. Manning with art by John Somariva. Yeah. And the colorist is Leonardo Ito.
Batman, the animated series, best Batman anything ever in the world. I will argue with everyone forever about that. Yes, it is the best Batman anything. Teaming up with the best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon out there. The Nickelodeon one. No, not the one we grew up on. Go back and watch it. It does not hold up. The Nickelodeon one. Those two teaming up after the success of Batman TMNT, what was it, earlier this year? Maybe late last year. The more serious version of it. Now you have the cartoons merging together into a 5 or 6 issue miniseries with this new #1. What a fucking great year for Batman the Animated Series.
Already I'm excited. Just the first issue, it's great. Mikey cracked me up in the first 2 pages, and I'm just like, I'm done. This is all I need in my life.
Do you like this version of Michelangelo from the TV show? Personally, I like more than the comic book one. Now, the comic book one gives us more heart, but this gives us some fucking funny lines.
He's hilarious.
Seeing him interact with Clayface, I'm like, this is fucking amazing. Just like the show, he gives him a nickname.
Yep.
Great. Batman designs from seasons 1 through 3. So you get Blueface on Two-Face with the giant disgusting eye. You have classic Clayface as well. You have Batman with the yellow oval with the bat symbol.
You have Alfred and his little funny moments.
Yep, all of that is in there. Now the artwork looks great. I love it. You also get classic Harley Quinn, the best version of Harley Quinn. My only complaint about this is that so far, the Batman version of it, and we haven't gotten too much Batman yet, so it's a minor complaint, but it doesn't yet feel like Batman the Animated Series to me. It's not quite there yet. It just feels like cartoon Batman. But we could get, even with Two-Face, with his inclusion in this comic, I didn't feel like it fit into any of the episodes or in any timeline during the series. But that's just me looking at it from I've got fucking Batman the Animated Series tattooed on my arm. I have a high bar when it comes to that kind of
You named your dog after Batman's dog.
Well, that wasn't exclusively animated series, but yeah, it's still such a high point for me as a reader. But I'm not going to get upset if it's not up to par either. It's only the first issue. We only got a few glimpses of Batman, and I'm just happy that we're getting anything animated series again.
The thing that I really enjoyed about this comic book is, as adults, we enjoyed it. It was funny. It was a great read. It had some great ups and downs in there. But I'm also I have a friend who has a 6-year-old, and she wants her 6-year-old to get into comics, and, he likes turtles and superheroes, and I'm reading this, and I said, he would really enjoy this, too. Like, it explains all the characters for the first-time kid readers, which is going to pull them in as well. It was an easy read, it was a fun read, and then at the end, you're like, okay, when is issue number 2? Like, let's get to the bottom of this mystery. And so I think it did a great job of hitting multiple age points.
If you do end up flipping to the back of Batman TMNT Adventures #1, you will see the cover gallery, so many exclusives. Us being fucking ill, we're sick. We got every single cover from our comic book shop.
Yep.
Including the blanks, because we got to get the blank covers and get some artwork on them. But there are exclusives through other retailers, so definitely be sure to check that out, because I missed it on my first read. The next comic book highlight is Mother Panic #1, which we did promise to Instagram user at Ubiquitous Movement that we would review today.
This one is written by Jody Hauser and Jim Kruger, and the art is by Tommy Lee Edwards and Phil Hester.
This is part of DC's Young Animal line. It's headlined by My Chemical Romance. I can't believe Gerard Way. That's his kind of baby, is the Young Animals line. This is not in continuity storylines, but some of these do take place in the same universe. The Mother Panic #1 takes place in Gotham, so you are going to see Batman interact with Mother Panic, but it's not a Rebirth title, so it's not like Batman is right now fighting Dr. Manhattan or whatever, the Watchmen. You're not going to see that leak over into the Young Animal books. Those are all standalone titles. Mother Panic was the one that I was most intrigued by because, again, it does take place in Gotham. But overall, it is still a little bit too different for me as a reader when reading these, just like Shade of the Changing Girl, for me to hold interest and continue reading. But I don't think I'm the demographic either.
Right. No, I definitely agree with that. It was cool for me to see it take place in Gotham, you know, for them to talk about Gotham, for them to look at her character and say, oh, she's been taken by one of the bats. I think that they're outlining a very interesting story. The main character, I don't think had enough for me to immediately grab on and say, yes, this is somebody that I want to follow. I'm interested to see kind of what's going on, what mystery is there, because it sounds like some really messed up shit, man.
This is a rated R book.
Right.
It is for adults.
It sounds real messed up. But, you know, I'm glad that they're doing something like this and that people are very interested in it and following the book.
Overall arc is Mother Panic, who's from what I understand, a new character. I could be wrong, but it looks to be a new character going after a large art community and organization that has criminal backgrounds to them to bring this hyperactive artwork to life. Sometimes it involves killing someone to create your art. Many times it does. Breaking the law for sure. And that's who she's going for. And the hook there is that, you know, her mom has early onset Alzheimer's. And that's essentially the very brief opening plot summary for the issue number 1. So if that sounds interesting to you, awesome. Again, I think this is aimed at, the whole Young Animals line is, as the name implies, aimed at a younger readership. So if you enjoyed that, cool, check it out. But we're not going to be subscribing to this title.
I do want to give a brief shout out though to another comic that we read, Spider-Man
Renew Your Vows.
Spider-Man Renew Your Vows. It was adorable.
Number 1, yeah. Just came out also.
Super cute. I was like, oh, I like this.
People that missed Peter Parker being married to Mary Jane and constantly swinging around thinking about how much he loves Mary Jane. I like the title.
Listen,
I thought it was a fun issue.
He was swinging around thinking about how much he wanted to bone Mary Jane. That is what that first issue was.
And groceries.
Well, and groceries. But no, he's in the middle of fighting somebody. She calls him and she's like, it's time. And he's like, oh, done here. And like, rushed home.
I really enjoyed the title.
Yeah.
We're not reading the main Spider-Man series, and this does take place as sort of a separate... think of it like the Superman title, when it was called Superman, Lois, and Clark, right after... what was the last DC event before Rebirth? Convergence. Right after Convergence, it spun out of that. So think of that like this Spider-Man title is its own standalone thing. I think it's going to merge into the main continuity eventually, which doesn't matter to me either way. But it was fun. It's lighthearted. It's all about them working as a family to raise this daughter and the insecurities that come with that while they're fighting superheroes, and insecurities with their superpowers, which also ties into their daughter as well. So, you know, that's very attractive to people our age. You know, we definitely want to read comic characters deal with real life issues that we're going to come across.
About raising families, Dan? My parents are not pushing for grandkids, by the way. They didn't buy us a crib.
No, not at all.
My dad doesn't joke about sprinkling fertility dust around our house. No, not ready.
So there you go, Brokettes. That will do it for our show today. Huge thanks for tuning in. Huge thanks for the bump this week in downloads. And if you are a newer listener, we hope you enjoyed the show. If there's anything you'd like to see covered or anything you'd like to see changed or any constructive criticism, definitely let us know on Twitter at ReasonsI'mBroke, Facebook.com/TheReasonsI'mBroke.
We also have at Palpakelli on Twitter. That is my Twitter that I check occasionally. Every once in a while I do. You know, maybe if I had more followers, I would check in more.
It's growing. Your account is growing.
What? Really? How many followers do I have?
41.
I have 41 followers? Really? No, that's a lie. I thought I had 41. Like 3.
No, you've got 41 followers.
I'm pretty sure I only have 3 followers. 4 followers? Maybe
41.
Maybe. Really? Wow. Well, thank you guys for following me. This is exciting. I'm going to go and post something right after this podcast. Yes. I will remember to do that.
Thank you so much, listeners. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Kelli.
We'll see you next week.